if all of my limbs are still attached to my body, I'm not going to the doctor because that mess is way too expensive. And so in Japan, they're like, oh, I think I might almost have a cold, so I'm going to go check to the hospital real quick. I'm like, are you what?
You want to start introducing yourself maybe, or
Yeah, that works.
you broad?
So yeah, what's up, everybody? I'm Supersonic. Also go by Jace, Jay, Jason, all kinds of anything that starts with the letter J, basically, right? Uh, yeah, I'm 32. I live in Japan now. I've been in Japan for about 7 years, and yeah, I work at a game company, and I guess we'll go into more detail later.
Yeah, I'm Stefan. I'm 30 and I live in Japan 1.5 years now, almost 2 years. I work in an esports company since, yeah, the whole time. And it's more like, yeah, production and like, yeah, that side. Like ESL, I think most people know the ESL.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like that, like
Yeah.
hosting tournaments and do all the, yeah, background stuff basically to run a tournament or event. Yeah,
Yeah, huh?
yeah. And that's it, I guess,
Nice.
for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I feel like we'll talk about a lot of stuff more as we go on, so it's like no need to
Yeah,
draw out the introduction, right?
yeah, yeah. And on Twitch, I'm streaming since 3 or 4 months now, so it's not that long.
Yeah.
You're like streaming way longer than
Yeah,
me,
I've been
right?
streaming for a long time, but I've also been taking a lot of breaks. Like the first time I ever started to stream was back in 2012 because I wanted to stream Phantasy Star Online 2, the beta.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, it was like I started streaming and then moved to Japan, so I had to stop for a while. And then like I got a chance and kind of off and on. So like as of right now for this current stint, I've been streaming for about 3, 4 months, but that's only like this current leg of it. But I'm trying to now that like things are a lot more because I mean we're gonna talk about it a little bit, but also like my days used to be so busy, like especially last year. It wasn't uncommon for me to do like 11-hour days. So like I just got home, I just didn't have the energy to stream. So yeah, so now that hopefully like things are a little bit different, all will be well, and I'll stream a lot more.
So like, how did you end up in Japan? Like, what's your path?
So my path was it was not glorious, I'll say that. Um
Okay.
Basically what happened was uh the short version of it, I found an exchange program that took me to Kyushu. And so I took
Okay.
that exchange program, got that all sorted out, came to Japan, and came here as an exchange student for what was supposed to be 10 months. And then I decided that, one, I liked it in Japan. Two, I was going to come back, and if I didn't take advantage of yeah, I decided that if I didn't take advantage of the fact that I was in Japan already, to come back as a tourist would be way too expensive. So I went ahead and just transferred into my school, took 10 months, took it into 3 years, and then at that point also I was like, let's just try job hunting. And so I did that, found a job, and I moved up to Tokyo.
Okay, so you came to Japan, learned Japanese here, and then you just
Basically, yeah, that was
continue
part of
being
it.
here.
I actually studied a little bit in America. Like I
Okay.
just took some classes. My Japanese classes in America actually focused a lot more on the conversational aspect of it rather than reading and writing. So I came over here and I was actually terrible at like kanji and like reading and that kind of stuff. But my pronunciation and my the way I spoke was good enough to like if I wanted to communicate verbally I could. And that's what kind of drug me along at least for the first little while until I picked up some good like reading and writing habits. How'd you wind up over here?
Yeah, I did working holiday a year in Tokyo,
Okay.
and like that year, 2014, the like Esports Square, do you know
Yeah,
that
yeah.
place?
Mm-hmm.
That just opened that time, and I just through a friend who is a StarCraft player, he invited me there,
Yeah.
and asked like, why don't you work part time there? And then I was like, okay, and I'm the only foreigner, so nobody spoke English there as well, and they had quite a lot of like foreign customers.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I got in touch with the esports scene. At that time, it was super small.
Yeah, huh.
Just the League of Legends league, like LJL, I think
Oh,
it's called.
yeah, huh.
That just started that year when I worked there,
Oh,
so it
snap.
was
Okay, this
super
is
like, yeah,
2015 then?
14.
14? Oh, this is 14 still. Wow, okay.
So in the January of 14, that just this new brand new internet cafe just opened.
Oh,
And then
snap. Okay.
after that the 1 year, I went back. Then I majored in Japanese studies
Yeah.
initially, And
Nice.
then, yeah, like 2 years ago, 2018, after graduating, I just came back here straight and then just found a job in esports.
Nice. Good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
so
like, yeah.
so that's interesting also, like, so you also you did a proper Japanese study as like your major, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
because
history, culture, like society problems,
okay,
whatever.
so like so by the time you got here, you were there's not you weren't super surprised at everything. Of course, there's going to be some things that if you don't see in
Mm.
person, but yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because in my case, I actually graduated with a marketing degree. Like
Oh, okay.
and before marketing in America, I was computer science, and then I became a graphic design. So I basically did everything except for Japanese studies. I just kind of
And
took
then
them
you
as like
ended up in
exploratories.
like, yeah, programming games and stuff, or game
Yeah,
design.
because that was always my end game was like
Okay.
was to just get into video games. Now I did not think I was gonna wind up in Japan doing it, but like ever since I was like at least 11, I was like I'm when I grow up I'm in video games. Like I just knew that was what I was doing. So everything I did was kind of a way to get into it at least in some way or form. So that's like kind of how I wound up here.
Yeah. I think connecting to that, we could talk about like how to find a job in Japan. Like,
Oh yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
many people in my chat at least they want to go to Japan and start living here or working here,
Uh
and
huh.
like once you're in the process or like once you have a job, it's quite easy to get the next job, right? But
Yeah, I would think so.
the
Yeah.
initial like the start is super hard.
Yeah, it's almost like I mean, and particularly Americans might be familiar with this, but it's a lot of it. It's like you need to have experience. Wait, you need to already have experience to show that you have the experience to work your first job, right? Like a lot of times, what will happen is they want to make sure that you're good to live here, that everything's a okay, but a lot of places aren't willing to be that first person. So that just like you said, like once you get that job, then everybody looks at you and it's like, all right, well, they already have a job, so that must mean they're not terrible, and then they're a lot more open to you. So yeah, that can be a tricky part, definitely.
Yeah. Also, like if you don't know Japanese, it's like super hard.
Yeah. That's gonna be a huge hurdle. Um, like if you don't know Japanese, like I mean, there is always a teaching route, right? But this I do know a lot of people actually who got into teaching, and then it was like they were just kind of stuck there, and like for whatever reasons, like either they just never learned more Japanese, or they just one thing or another, right? But a lot of teachers that I've talked to, it's I don't want to say it's rare. I don't want to say it's rare, but a lot of teachers that I talk to actually after at least like 5 years they're just kind of like I've had enough. I can't do it anymore. Because well, at the same time, like if you're not already passionate about teaching, teaching in Japan is not going to make you any more passionate,
Oh,
right? So like
not at all.
yeah, so for a lot of people it's a means to an end. So yeah, if it's your way into Japan, then just be prepared that like if teaching is not for you, it's not like oh I just get to slack off. It's actually gonna kind of be a little bit tough. You already for the most part said how you got into it. Like you had a friend that was like, hey, I do like competitive StarCraft. Why don't you come over and work at the new esports bar and stuff like that? Before that, like so you said you were working at Haneda, like the airport. Like where were you
Oh,
working before the esports?
you mean before the working holiday year?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well yeah. I mean like what was your first job in Japan and how'd you get that?
My first job? My first job was like so basically I came to Japan working holiday in end of 2013.
Uh huh.
Then 1 month or 1.5 I worked at a German restaurant in the kitchen.
Ah, snaps! You're in a German restaurant. Okay.
Yeah, but like I found that like just by googling and using Gaijinpot I think was it or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then but that was so horrible and they treated me really bad and
Oh shit.
the chefs were kind of yeah assholes
Yeah. So
and
was
because they
like,
looked bad stuff
oh yeah.
wasn't Roppongi so
Damn. Yeah, because that's another thing too that a lot of people don't realize is that like there's there's a real big idea that like oh Japan is like everybody's nice in Japan, everything is so nice and sweet and like polite and whatever. There's been like thankfully I haven't had that like any jobs that have really been like a pain in the butt. But like, I mean, I've had friends like, like, or even you, like, saying that, you get a part-time job and they just treat you like crap. And it's just like they treat you like you're a dime a dozen, or like that, oh, you're only here because you do this one thing, but I don't value you as a person. And yeah, that can be tough.
Just to clarify, someone said Germans who treat you bad. No, the chefs were Japanese,
Uh-huh.
and the owner was Japanese, but he spoke German. So,
Uh-huh.
but at that time, my German, when Japanese was kind of like, I don't know,
Yeah.
N4 maybe, like
Yeah, okay, yeah,
not
yeah.
beginner, but like also not fluent.
Yeah,
So
not
like
like
really,
it wasn't good enough to where when somebody yells something at you, you could understand it.
yeah, yeah,
Because yeah, like that's something people don't understand. Like if you're learning a second language, it's like when you're talking like this, it's one thing. But if somebody is like yelling at you to do something real quick, like it hits different. Like you'll like it's a word that you know normally, but because of the panic of like the urgency of it, your brain just kind of goes, what, huh, and then they're just like,
yeah,
what, you don't understand? Do this, and it's like, no, I do understand. Just don't yell at me because like it's not your native tongue, right?
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
they're just chefs who work like 12-hour shifts and never see their family
yeah,
basically, and 6 times a week and stuff. That's why they're so frustrated. And
uh-huh, yeah. So they just take it
if
all
you
out on
just
you,
start new
basically.
there and help in the kitchen, they're like, oh, don't put the pot there. Oh, don't wash like this. Oh, you
Uh-huh.
should, like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They don't give you
You're super
time to
annoyed.
actually
Whatever
get.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah,
that
that was my
sucks.
first job, and then I quit there, and then I found the esports place. So that
Okay.
was my history, and from then, yeah, it was kind of smooth,
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot. Cause my case is a bit different. Because I was coming from school, right? So I mean, yeah, while I was in university, I did a part-time job as an English conversation teacher. And
Okay.
luckily I like teaching. Like I'd been teaching just like different things since I was like 14 and whatnot. So I actually do like teaching already. So it wasn't that bad. Like it's just that I'm very peculiar about my teaching. Like I need to be able to teach. I don't want to say the way that I want to teach, but I'm not just gonna be like follow the book, next lesson. Like if somebody doesn't understand, I want to sit with them until they understand, right?
Yeah.
And so thankfully I found a place that let me do that, where I could be like, this like these kids don't understand this lesson. I'm going to spend an extra day on this lesson and just kind of like cut it off somewhere else down the line. And the teacher's like, yeah, fine, that's fine. But so yeah, while I was doing that, I did like traditional style Japanese job hunting, freaking shushoku katsudo, and boy, boy, that mess is ridiculous. Like on the one hand, it's nice because compared to America, you can like in America you leave college and you're just on your own. It's just like good luck. But in Japan there's a job hunting season, and that's generally between like March and July, roughly. Of course, you can find a job outside of season two, but like that season is when everybody's doing job hunting. So on the one hand, it's nice because it's set up to it's set up to ease you out of university into work. So like the timing of it is like you basically like in Japan you graduate from university in like February February or March or something, like either like early March or like late February or something. And then basically the work year starts in April. So it just kind of follows a school year calendar, so it's made to go like just straight from one to the other. It's a really smooth transition. And then also like the universities while you're job hunting, they help you out with stuff. They like my university had places to help me with making my resume, with all of the teachers were understanding like whenever I needed to not whenever I need to miss class because I need to fly for a job interview, they were always like, okay, well, just tell the interviewer to give you a sheet of paper saying that I was at this interview, and then they just waive that class. Like if you had a test that day, they'll move it and whatever. It's really they really work with you on that. But the downside of it is that literally everybody is job hunting then, right? So you have a lot of competition, and so
Yeah.
you trying to make yourself stand out amongst everybody. And then in the case of a foreigner, so half of my job hunting, I would say half, maybe like 70-80% of my job hunting was in Japanese. So I actually like I had to learn how to, like properly introduce myself. Like, whenever like you walk up to the door, you knock two times, they say come in, you open the door like not fully, you open the door maybe like 45 degrees and you're like "失礼いたします." You close the door, never turn your back to the interviewer behind you. You stand next to the chair until they say it's okay to sit down. And then you sit down, you give your the school you went to, what's your name, and like your major and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of work to go into. And I even I watched like a bunch of YouTube videos on like how to do it. It was not easy. And then of course like the entire time you're sitting there like I hope they don't say something I don't understand or whatever. And like it's just hard. I will say generally most companies will want you to have your JLPT into paper, saying that you can actually speak at least that level. I honestly think part of the reason why my job hunting was so hard was because I actually didn't pass the N2 the first time I started job hunting. I passed listening and reading. No, I passed listening and vocabulary, failed reading. Then I took it again, passed listening and reading, failed vocabulary. So in my mind, I'm like, screw it, I already passed the whole thing, so whatever. I got my job now, so I'm like, you know what? I'll worry about that later.
Oh, that's annoying. Damn. The N2, huh? The magical N2.
Yeah, right? It's like, once you have that N2 paper, like, it's just like doors will just, they just open. Now, it's not necessarily super easy. And I will say this, I was also very picky. At my school, so the school I went to was an international school, right? So it was about 50-50 Japanese people and I would say 80 different countries. Like it was crazy. And there were a lot of people who were just like job hunting, but they just went for any job. Got a job, they were like, oh, I got my Naite already. They brag about it, like, oh, it's a month and I already got my Naite, blah, 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 blah. But I talked to them a year later and they're like, my job sucks. I can't wait to move. Like, they just found the first thing. I was really picky about it. So yeah, like I almost got kicked out of Japan because I almost overstayed my visa looking for a job, which that's another story I can get into later. But at the end of the day, I found a job I'm like going on year 4 at, and I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah.
Was it the same company you're working
Yeah.
at now, right? Currently? Okay. Wow.
I've been at this company for like 3 years and however many months it's been since April, May, June, July, August. So yeah, 3 years, 4 months at this point.
Only foreigner there, right?
There's so in my building there are so I'm like one of 3 Westerners. There's other foreigners, but like some of them are like Singaporean and stuff like that. But I'm one of 5. Okay, now 5 because we got some other people in. But like it's like me, one other American, one Canadian, one British person, and one French person. And
Or is it
I'm sorry?
in Japan or you mean
Yeah.
globally?
No, these are all like in my building. So like my
Okay.
company has about like 1,500 employees.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty big. So but I'm not in the main office. I'm in like one of the branch offices, like our team. And so in my office alone, there's like 5 other foreigners, and I think at the main office there's like a handful as well. But again, it's like there's single digits of us amongst 1,500 employees.
Uh,
Oh yeah, I mean yeah.
Someone asked, does he want to live long term in Japan or is it just an experience thing?
That's an interesting question that I get a lot. So it's not a clean answer, but
Yeah, no problem, Alex.
I'm just kind of playing it by ear to be honest. Nothing has made me want to go back to America yet. I would say the one thing that will make me want to go back to America is if and when I do get married and have a kid. Like if I do marry I mean, well either way I want my kid to be bilingual, like regardless. But I also at a certain point I would like my kid to live in America. And so like let's say if I do end up having a kid in Japan and whatnot, probably like up until they're like 8 or 9 years old, like in Japan. That way they like learn, like so they can basically learn both of their heritages as well as like speak both languages and be comfortable with both scenarios. Yeah, I can go deeper into that, but that being said, it also is an experience thing.
Yeah.
Like as I tell people, I just feel like my adventure's not over yet. so there's no reason for me to cut it short.
Okay, there's no end game or like.
Yeah. Like, well, it's not even just that. It's like the goalpost keeps moving. Like, as soon as I hit one goal that I have, I make sure to make another. And so as of right now, like the goals that I have aren't particularly based in me living in Japan or living in America. It's just I have a goal and just however I achieve it. Like if achieving my next goal means I have to go back to America, then so be it. But as of right now, I'm really enjoying my time in Japan and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah. It's like always what I say, like it's easy to live in Japan, just working here is hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I actually got a
yeah.
comment in my chat saying, got an 8-year-old in Japan, they would not be happy being uprooted to the States. Yeah, I mean, but then again, like no kid is really happy moving. Like, I mean, I remember I was 8 when I moved. I was born in New York and moved to Georgia when I was 8, and I remember I wasn't particularly happy about that myself. So it is what it is. But like I kept in touch with my real friends, so like it is what it was, right?
Yeah, but now you said you're here 7 years now, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like it's
That's
gonna be 7 years.
long.
Actually, yeah, it's like 7. It's gonna be exactly 7 years in like a month or two from now. No, yo, wait. It's actually Is it 7 years from today? It's
That
some.
would be
Yeah,
wild.
that's wild. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like 7 years from today. Like, freaking August 16th, I touched down in
Damn.
Japan. Freaking 2013. Wow, that's wild.
Well, basically almost because I arrived 30th of October 2013.
Yeah,
It's almost same.
yeah. Good stuff,
Damn.
yo. Happy Japan
Happy
anniversary.
7 years in Japan, my dude.
Right?
Don't. Damn, that's so long.
Yeah, it's a long
So
ass
that's
time.
like yeah. In these 7 years, do you feel anything changed in Japan or like
Uh, in Japan, as far as Japan, or in Japan is like my experience of Japan, or like my idea of Japan.
both? I don't know, like both questions are quite
Mm,
interesting, I think.
so as far as Japan changing on its own accord, I do think that things are becoming a little bit more like, I mean, I haven't felt it super hard, but things are becoming a little bit more global, and that's a term that Japan's been trying to use for a long time. And they're like, oh yeah, let's be global, but like Japan didn't know what that meant, and so I finally feel like they're starting to, not
Yeah.
fully, but they're starting to understand what being actually global means. As far as my experience in Japan, to answer your question at the same time, real quick, no, I came to Japan as an exchange student, so I didn't have the jet route, but I've become a lot more jaded. Like, so my honeymoon period of oh Japan is Japan, oh everything's so nice, blah blah blah, that's over. Like, it's at the point now where I have things about Japan that I really can't stand, but at the same time, I have things about America, my own home country, that I can't stand too. So it's like, I always tell people, it's like, yeah, Japan's not the whole cotton candy and rainbows that everybody wants to make it, but at the same time, the amount of good that I've still experiencing in Japan completely outweighs the amount of bad. So I'm still definitely happy to be here.
Like a general positive like experience
Yeah, yeah,
or like
yeah.
living safe,
Hmm.
not
Exactly.
dirty.
Yeah.
I don't know, civilized, I would say. Like,
Yeah, like I mean, there's just so many things. I mean, hell, even just something like just small, like healthcare, even like that's one huge thing. Like I went to like the other day, I went because my finger was feeling messed up, so I went to the orthodontic, what you call it, orthopedic, and I got an X-ray of my hand, and I got an X-ray. I got some kind of gauze and like some like medicine, and I also got some oral medicine too, and the whole checkup was like $20. Like walked in, no appointment, was like, hey, my finger feels weird. Can we go ahead and do something about it? And he was like, boom, 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 check, check, check. We talked about it, and he was like, all right, that's gonna be $20. I'm like, all right, cool. So yeah, like, and so people in Japan, they're just like, especially like against towards Americans, because being American, I was always like, if all of my limbs are still attached to my body, I'm not going to the doctor, because that mess is way too expensive. And so in Japan, they're like, oh, I think I might almost have a cold, so I'm gonna go check to the hospital real quick. I'm like, are you what? But then they go and come back, and it was like a $5 checkup to get medicine too. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, well, if that's the case,
It's super interesting because that's like always a point of perspective, you know, because I come from Germany
yeah,
and for us it's the opposite. Like in Germany you don't pay anything and in Japan suddenly you
yeah,
have the 30% of your own, you know.
yeah,
I never paid in Germany like cash in the like used cash at the doctor or in the clinic or
really,
wherever you are in the hospital. I never did that. In Japan
yeah.
I did it the first time. I was like, wow, I have to pay here? What? You know, it's like the perspective is so different, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's wild.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But still, of course, like Japan has one of the best like medical fields or medical like
Yeah.
yeah infrastructure
Hmm.
in the world, and like they're even more advanced in Germany in case of
Yeah.
like what kind of lasers, X-ray, whatever, like technology side,
Yeah, it's
and
really
robots even, you know.
yeah. It's really up to date, which is funny, and I'm thankful for that because for as up to date and like as advanced as Japan is in some areas, Japan is so old fashioned in other areas. Like, I'm sorry, don't ever ask me to fax or ask something ever again, Japan. Like, oh, okay, because like they want me to like for example the resumes, right? In Japan, what you do is you hand write the resumes. You write everything by hand, like schools you went to, like all your resume questions, like every single one, and every resume, like basically, I'll say like 80% of all companies have like their own specific resume form. So it's not like you can just write the same thing over and over. It's like they'll ask you their questions. And I swear to you, I did at least like, I turned in at least 30 or 40 different resumes, and I think only about five of them had questions that overlapped. All the rest were completely different, and you had to write everything by hand. And so you write it by hand, and then you put it into an envelope and you mail it to them. They take that, they scan it into their computer, and sometimes they'll fax you back a copy of your own thing. I'm like, I wrote that. Don't fax me this. Are you kidding me? Like, if you're gonna do that, just let me email it to. Oh my god, it's stupid.
That's hilarious.
It's so backwards. It's oh my god. So, but like, that's one thing that is like I'm not a huge fan of about Japan is like some parts of it is like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But then it's like at the same time, it's not the optimal way of doing things, and it's just they're just hard set in their way and whatnot. So,
It's different in my experience. I never had to write down a resume. I always like, print it out or
uh
just
huh.
send a PDF and that's it.
See that's nice. But then again, like especially like with the esports things and whatnot, like that's a little bit more like up to date, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I mean, my company is quite small. We're like now 60 people, but when I started, we're like 25.
Mhm. Well, I think that's also
Kind
probably
of
part of
startup
it.
feeling,
Like
you know?
you couldn't afford to have people wasting their time on like faxing stuff back and forth. So like do
Yeah.
it the most efficient way, right?
Yeah. That's why it's. Yeah, but it's interesting. Like, you know, every foreigner in Japan has a different experience.
Yeah, uh-huh, definitely.
So, yeah.
So it's fun to talk about.
The thing is also like foreigners in esports in Japan, I know most, I would say most of them
Uh-huh.
because they're
Uh-huh.
only like three or four.
Yeah.
Like, I know one guy who used to work at Blizzard, and one guy is like, I don't know, all these big companies, and that's it. Okay, well, we can talk about esports
Yeah. Yeah,
or
that's the thing.
gaming in
Like,
general in Japan.
yeah, because esports is new. Like, Japan is actually kind of behind, like, kind of really behind when it comes to esports compared to US even compared to US. I'm not sure about how a lot of Europe is. I know France had a pretty decent fighting game scene, if nothing else. And yeah, of course Korea. Korea is like leading the charge on everything. But yeah, like Japan is a little bit behind on esports. So actually I'm really interested on like why you think that is because I have some guesses, but like I mean one of my main guesses is that like a lot of people don't have PCs in Japan, just partially because like it's just there's not a lot of living space, so people don't want to take it up with a huge old PC, right? And so because of that, like a lot of PC gaming, if it's not done at like a not PC bong basically type deal or a net cafe, it's just not as many people. So not as many people are going to get into that kind of esports. So a lot of esports are really taking off. They have like in general they have either like a like console component as well, or like or like mobile or something. But yeah, what do you think? Because that's just speculation on my end.
But funny enough, I wrote my bachelor thesis about this
Yeah.
topic. Like why is Japan lacking behind in esports?
Oh
That
snap.
was actually my my thesis. So what I found was like the big aspect, like esports is like a advertisement, right? Basically, it's
Yeah.
PR. So, and in PR, it's all about money. Like, if you can put out the big prize pool and stuff, then people will start playing that game because, you can make a living. That's esports for me, at least, and not casual gaming.
Yeah.
But in Japan, like, somehow they put the esports industry under the Gambling
Right?
Act.
Yeah, that's another
And
really weird thing about that. Yeah, but go on. Sorry.
yeah, and the Gambling Act states that you can't pay prize money more than $1,000, like 100,000 yen.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't make a living as a programmer if you can earn only like $1,000 here, and $1,000 the whole prize pool, I think, and then like the first gets like $500, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
It's like
you can't live on that.
yeah. No, that is a really really good point. Which is one thing that pissed me off. Like, how did esports wind up under gambling when it's like, and like gambling is illegal, right? But then you have pachinko parlors, and it's like everybody knows that pachinko is gambling, but it's
But in Chico, you don't get prize money. You get stuffed animals, and
that's
next door is a shop where you can return to convert that into money. I know.
exactly. So like it's a loophole. It's a super fucking obvious loophole, but yet like the whole Japan just lets it happen. But then esports, it's like, oh yeah, it's a test of skill that people have to work for, but it's gambling, so you can't pay out X amount of prize money. And it's like, yeah, so that definitely stifled esports in Japan a lot.
Yeah. So that was one of the fine, like the like ecosystem couldn't kick off because usually even advertise like what 10 million prize pool, like TI, like the international Dota.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like like 20 millions now and stuff. That's the best way to advertise. Like
Exactly,
even
right?
normal people are like, wow, you can if you win, you get like 2 million per person or stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Then you can
exactly.
show like this is professional. You earn like a soccer player or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But in Japan, that couldn't kick off. Like it couldn't start at all. Luckily, they changed that law 2 years ago. So,
Yeah, so now finally esports can go ahead and get somewhere in Japan.
mm,
So yeah, like it's still slow. Like I mean, I say it's slow, but like at this point, it's like not the organizers' fault really, because like they're only just now trying to be like, hey, 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 and stuff. But and yeah, and maybe this is just me being a foreigner, but like a lot of esports, like I was watching, for example, I was watching a Valorant actually earlier today, and like the organization of it is still very formal, and I think that might just be partially because of just Japan being Japan, but like I think esports in the West, especially the FGC, like FGC, but like also like just in general esports in the West, like it comes from more of a I'm a gamer too mentality. So it's like you have people that acting professional, but they still go ahead and like go off the handle and like do like kind of like silly stuff every once in a while. Whereas in Japan or whatever, and actually, like I don't know how I feel about this. I was watching the Valorant thing, and it was like they had the analysts, and it was like three guys and one girl, but like the girl was basically only there to be like, wow, that looks hard, yeah, that was amazing, yeah, but like she doesn't actually do any of the analysis herself. And so like I'm sorry, like another one of the things I'm not really a fan of about Japan is that Japan is still like a little bit misogynistic, like a little bit like men have their place, women have their place. And so you can definitely see a lot, and like so I'm watching this Valorant stream, and I'm like, if she's there and on the analyst table, but not analyzing anything, is she just like the girl that's supposed to be there for the eye candy? Because that's very Japan to do. They're just
yeah.
like, and put a girl here because guys are watching, and it's like that's not really great.
Just like to be a game show, the booth babes and stuff.
Yeah, 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 right, right.
Ridiculous. The
So
Gamescom in Germany is super big, I think,
yeah, huh?
Gamescom. Like they're like I think since I'm going there since 2011, I never like there are some of like I think like Monster Energy. They have still girls there, but like they are not like showing off a lot of
Yeah, they're
skin
not
or
just like walking
something.
around in bikinis and whatnot.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
definitely changed in the West, but I don't know. In Japan, is still like yeah, and
Yeah.
they like ridiculous amounts. Like they have one booth, and last year I worked at the Omen booth at the Tokyo Gamescom,
Okay, yeah.
and there were like 20 to 30 girls like around the whole booth and
Yeah.
handing out like
Yeah, right. And it's just kind of like
like holy just why so many, you know,
yeah,
like an
right.
army
It's
kind
like it's
of
not needed. It's not
what's
necessary.
happening here. Yeah, but yeah, I think you mentioned also like the console market is quite big,
Yeah.
but I think that's the like how do you call it, the hen egg problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So esport doesn't kick off because the prize money, and the prize money doesn't attract players, and that's why players don't buy PCs. And you know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah, exactly. It's a,
and then foreign investors say there's no esports scene in
yeah,
Japan, but also
exactly.
like if they don't invest, there will be no esports scene. You know what I mean? Like, it's, like what do you want? You
Exactly.
know, you have to risk something for the
Exactly.
new market always.
It's funny, like just like a tiny bit off topic, but like I used to say, like I would go to like before all of this nonsense happened, I would go to nightclubs all the time, right? And like, in Japan and America and stuff like that, there've been so many times where I'll be at a bar or a nightclub, and I'll go early because of just like how whenever I get there, and like because like I have a friend that works there or something, right? And somebody will like a group of people will come in and be like, "Wow, there's nobody here," and they'll leave. Another group will come in and be like, "There's nobody here," and they'll leave. And it's like, if the first six groups of people just stayed instead of leaving when they said nobody was there, people would be there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so yeah, it's the exact same problem. It's like, come
Uh,
on, like somebody has to go ahead and be the pioneer of it, like eventually somehow. But yeah,
uh,
so like yeah, there's a PC thing, and then also like a tiny bit outside of esports too. But like handhelds are like do amazingly in Japan, just because like public transit is so good here. Like definitely in America, I have to explain to people in America that like like yeah, people love the Switch and people like love Game Boys and stuff like that, but you have to understand that people drive themselves everywhere, so you don't have time to play or whatever because you are the pilot, right? Whereas in Japan, it's not uncommon at all for me to see like a 50 like a 40 something year old salaryman on the train like playing PSP, playing Switch or something, and just because you have that time, you have that extra time in the day, you might as well go ahead and do something with it.
yeah, and also like yeah, accessibility. I mean, the big companies, Sony is Japanese, Nintendo's Japanese, so they're also like putting out a lot of advertisement and money into developing like a culture. Like you should play with your family, you know. It's like always like Nintendo, you know, that's
Yeah.
their thing and stuff like that. I mean, and then Pokemon games and Smash Brothers and whatever.
Uh-huh.
Even on normal TV, you see these kind of commercials, you
Oh
know.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like
I got a question in my chat that I wanted to hit on real quick. So the okay, Keizo asks, do you think that it would be more difficult for a woman to be employed in a Japanese gaming company due to misogyny, or is it not that extreme in Japan? So I honestly, it depends on. I feel like part of it depends on the size of the company. I would say my company in particular is actually pretty good at not discriminating against like gender, against like from places, like physical like abilities and whatnot. So but at the same time though, there's definitely like, I mean, there's definitely still that boys club aspect of it. And so I definitely do think that depending on the company, it might very well be difficult. And it's like, of course, they're not going to be like, it's because you're a girl. It's because, it's like, if you don't think along certain terms, like, oh, how would you think that's fun? Or like, oh, that's not going to sell. Or like, why would you even think that? And it's kind of like, okay, to kind of break off from that, it's the same kind of deal that when foreigners are looking for places to live in Japan, and like that apartment hunt is such bullshit because there's so many apartment complexes that don't take foreigners. They'll be like, you're not Japanese, you can't live here. And then when they ask why, they're like, oh, because foreigners cook smelly food. And it's like, the fuck kind of excuse is that? Just say you're racist. Like, I mean, that's it. That's fine. And then, but like, yeah, but it's like, it'll be the same thing. You know, I feel like they won't say, oh, you can't work here because you're a girl. They'll probably just be something like, oh, well, not if. When you get married and you have a kid and you're gone for 9 months, then what do we do? That's the excuse that a lot of Japanese companies use, even to this day. And but yeah, I mean, hell, there's even freaking like there not a law, but like a law or ruling or something where they were like women were trying to abolish the social ruling of like women have to wear high heels at the office, and the vote for abolishing it was shut down by a panel of men who obviously never had to wear heels in their life, yet they're going to tell women, oh no, you have to wear heels because it's tradition and it's business attire. It's like, no, like what? Like it's, so yeah, there are problems like that.
I think it's not only to foreign women, like also Japanese women. They just look at them all. You just come on, you're gonna get married soon, and then you're gone, and you never come back. I heard that so often, like even from female Japanese friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. Like as a foreigner, I think it doesn't matter much if you're a woman or not. Of course, if as a woman, you sometimes get like picked on or like nampa.
Yeah, true,
More
right,
from your
right.
coworkers, I think.
Yeah. It could go either way, I feel.
Like I never got sexual harassment in my work at least.
Oh yeah,
So,
thankfully neither have I.
yeah.
So
And like I don't know. Do you ever got like racist or like racism sabitsu
no, not I mean,
at work at least?
yeah, no, not at work, no. Like, and it. I'm trying to think because there have been there've been like a time or two, like I can count on one hand, so not a lot, where they were just kind of like, we have to do this because of the Japanese market. This is how Japanese people think, and this is what will sell, so we have to do it this way. And then I fire back, yeah, that's cute and all, but aren't we selling this globally? And so like we've had our spats like that, but no, I've been very fortunate to like not at least, and I feel like I'm good at picking up social cues, and so like to my knowledge, like I've never experienced anything like people acting a certain way with me because I'm not Japanese. And that's another thing about racism in Japan too, is like, I mean, yeah, there are things like historically, right? Like China, Japan, Korea, Japan, right? But aside from that, like anything that's not like anything, anybody that's not like Chinese or Korean and not Japanese, like it's the racism against us isn't because we are a race, it's because we aren't a race. It's not because I'm American, it's not because I'm black, it's because I'm not Japanese. And so that
Yeah.
kind of racism is a little bit different and generally speaking not as malicious, I would say.
Because I have a friend, he's from like UK, but his parents are from Ghana.
Uh-huh.
And he told me that he got like stopped by police in Japan like at least 7 times, and he's also living here since 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And just because he's black, and
Uh-huh.
then once he showed his UK passport, they were like, "Oh, sorry, you're European, so we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
sorry to
yeah.
bother you," you know? Like, I'm like, "What the?"
Yeah. That kind of sucks actually. And like
Yeah.
it sucks, but at the same time I feel bad for your friend. But
Yeah, me, I feel so sorry. Like, I can't help anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like so here's my thing with that, which is not necessarily the most PG thing. So, probably if you put this up on YouTube, feel free to cut this part out. But like w- when I went to like Harajuku and like Roppongi, right? There's a lot of Africans there that are like working the streets and like Shinjuku too, right? There's
Yeah.
Africans that are sitting on the street and they're basically just like, oh, come to my store, come to my bar, come to my strip club, or just something, right? Like they're always trying to like pull foreigners in or like, Japanese girls, like they're basically like harassing people, right? They're like, oh, come to my little like strip club or whatever, right? But the problem is a lot of times they'll tell Japanese people that they're American because being American is cooler than being African. And so then when I come around, an actual black American, and then they're like, oh, I already know your type. And I'm like, no, the fuck you don't. Like,
You don't.
that's like, those are Africans being asshats pretending to be American. And so, like, it sucks that that happens to your friend, but at the same time, like, I know I'm gonna get shit for this, but there's a section of the African community that's basically spoiling it for all Africans in Japan. There definitely is, and if they would just get their shit together, then like no, none of us would have to go through that, right? So, but that is that.
Like white people, like some, I don't know, European white or like even American white, they like just treat Japanese women like shit.
That
And then they go
yeah,
back, and then and then you're the next in line. You're just a nice guy.
right,
And
right,
then
right,
the
and then
others are like, no, not the foreigner. Like, look at the last guy. He was such an asshole. Like, you know, like,
exactly,
that
exactly.
wasn't me.
Yeah,
Just
exactly
because
right.
I'm
Like
also white, you know.
it just
Yeah.
like it's just easy, and it's human nature too. It's like to just group like people that you don't know as just one entity. That's how racism and that's how like not segregation, what's the word, stereotyping works, is because as humans we learn that it's like, all right, that thing is shaped like fire, I've touched it once and that was hot, so I'm not going to do it again, right? So it's like, if this that's why people are afraid of spiders, because we don't know which ones are poisonous unless we study them, right? But like most spiders are harmless, right?
Good example.
Exactly, but like I mean, but it's the same thing. It's like if they come up and they see like a foreigner and like that person's a super like nampa, like super like playboy and this and that and the other, and then they see the next foreigner, they're like, all right, is this one poisonous or is this one safe? Well, it's just better to say that they're all poisonous. It's safer to say they're all poisonous and not deal with them rather than to like get burned each time, right? So it sucks, but it's also just kind of human psychology. So.
Funny enough, like Japan, I would say is the only country where, when I say I'm German, they're like really positive surprised.
Yeah.
Because in Europe, you're like, oh, come on, you know, the Second World War and stuff like that. Like, oh, come on, like they don't
Oh
like
no.
French people and like
Yeah.
Polish or whatever. You have so many, but in Japan, they're like, oh yeah, our old allies and stuff.
Yeah, right.
We that kind of talk. I'm like, okay.
It's just like, okay.
Only in Japan this kind of stuff happens, especially when
Oh,
you
that's
talk to
funny.
older OG sons, you know.
Yeah. That's
So funny,
funny.
yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know. Because all of them, they think you're American. Because like all white people here are American, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Everybody's like, in Japan, there's a handful of countries, right? You have the Japanese map, right? You have Japan, China, Korea, Gaikoku. And that's it. That's it. So we're from
foreign
Gaikoku.
land. Yeah, it's true. They don't.
Speak for yourself. Oh yeah, Australia spiders are another story, but yeah, I'm sorry, go on. Nigerians acting American, yeah. Oh man, I've heard it myself. It's silly. It's absolutely silly. Like with the thickest accent, like he was speaking Japanese, but with the thickest Nigerian accent, he was like, yeah, he's like, American da yo, and I'm like, is he? So I walked up to him, I'm like, yo, what's up? I'm like, yo, man, where are you from? He's like, oh, I'm from Nigeria. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool.
What does he like the most about Japan? What do you like the most about Japan? Yep. Very broad question, but
Right. Okay, I have a couple of answers to this. One, even though it can be a pain, I like how recycling is baked into the culture of Japan. Like, because in America, I tried to recycle a lot actually, and it was just really hard. Like, you had to pay extra, you had to do all this and that stuff. But in Japan, like, everything is just recycled by default. It's like, this goes here, this goes out on this day, this goes out on this day. You don't pay any extra, so that's dope. Um, Also, like, how, generally speaking, how safe it is. Like, like basically, as long as like you're not in a place like outside of like nightclubs or whatever, like even some bars will do this. It just really depends, but like you can lose your wallet and like not only will like you like somebody will call you about it and stuff, like if it doesn't get turned into the police. Like I've had a friend leave a phone at a bar, and we were going bar hopping or something, and they realized they left their phone back at like some bar, so we started tracing our steps back. And so literally like 2 hours later, we get to like the first bar, which is where they left it at, and the staff didn't even have it. It was just on the counter where she left it. The entire time for 2 hours, it was just there on the counter. Nobody touched it. Nobody, not as much as flipped it over. So yeah, like generally speaking, stuff like that, like things in America that you'd be like, oh, that's lost forever. Like in Japan,
Yeah.
like there's a good chance that somebody, if it's not where it was, somebody will have turned it into the police. Um, so yeah, so that's really really nice. Also, let's
Obvious
see.
things like food.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, food of course. But I mean, I feel like food is like an easy answer just because like I feel like there's a lot of places that have like, their food, right? But I do like a lot of Japanese food, especially like shabu shabu. Like God, I'm killed for shabu shabu. Actually, I'm gonna make some shabu shabu tonight. I just bought some meat before the stream and whatnot. Um,
Okay.
but okay, so one thing that I really like about Japan that is very cheating. Like I'm cheating super hard on this, and maybe you can agree with me on this, but because I'm not Japanese and because I speak English or Japanese, it's so easy for me to start conversations, and then like all the icebreaker questions are already like laid out in front of me. Oh, where are you from? How long have you been in Japan? Why is your Japanese so good? Blah blah blah. Like, all of that stuff, right? So I can just kind of like walk up into a place and just be like, "Yo, gakoujin desu." And they'll be like, "Ah, you speak Japanese." Immediately, next thing I know, within like if I go to a bar, within the half hour, people are just like buying me drinks and buying me shots for no reason. All I did was say hey. So that's a part of Japan I really like, that I know like if I was Japanese, that wouldn't happen because I wouldn't have the whole not Japanese thing going for me.
Question someone asked, you're a programmer or developer?
I'll say developer, but like my title in the company is a planner. And so basically, I don't do any of the actual like coding. It's like some like I'll say light coding, but like coding to the extent of like I wouldn't call HTML like HTML coding, right? Like that kind of stuff. So of course I'll have to go in and be like, when this button is pressed, if it's pressed for longer than 6 seconds, do this. If it's pressed for shorter than 6 seconds, do this. And then set it to like different animation stuff. Like I'll do that far. But my main thing was combat design. So it was a little bit of game balance, like a game balance, like how the characters interact with each other, as well as whenever characters had new attacks. I made a good chunk of their new attacks. So what I would do is, let's say they needed like a new kick, right? And so I'd be like, all right, what does the kick? What are properties of the kick? Like how strong, how fast, what height or whatever, is it like a low or high or something like that. And then I'll come up with like, let's say it's not uncommon for me for like one attack for me to come up with somewhere between like 3 and 12 ideas for just like one attack. And then I'll pass it off to my director, see what's up. Once it gets the okay from my director, then it goes to the producer. Once it gets the okay from the producer, then it goes over to the CG, and they actually CG animate it in. And then I'll look at that animation and I'll be like, all right, the balance is off here. Like, like they need to turn at the shoulders a little bit more. Like they're like, why is their head so high up? They need to go ahead and duck as they're turning their shoulders as they go into the kick, blah, blah, blah. After a couple of iterations of that, then I'll take that and then put it into the game. And again, like, when the kick hits, it does X damage. It has this property. It can't be sidestepped and that kind of thing, right? So yeah. But yeah, so
Someone also asked, what's your favorite fighting game?
favorite fighting game?
Dead or Alive 6.
Yeah, or just Dead or Alive in general. Actually, like part of why I got into my company was because I played Dead or Alive since 2. So I was very familiar with the game system and like how everything worked in the game. So it was like I was familiar with the system. I was also a martial artist myself, so I had a good like kind of idea of how the human body
Cool.
moved and stuff like that. Spoke Japanese. Also had ideas for like what was good, what was bad, what could be better, and stuff like that. So yeah, so a combination of all of that, and they were like, yeah, come on, we could use you. So I'm about to be in my last year of university in the UK and thinking about trying to get a gaming job in Japan. Any tips on getting into Japan?
Getting into means like how to find a job, or
I think so, like just in general, like how to get to Japan first to be able to even do like the gaming stuff and whatnot.
like I would say like Japanese for sure, like learn as much Japanese as you can until you arrive. It will like improve your quality of life by 100 times. And secondly, I would, yeah, I mean, the good thing about game development, or like they looking for foreigners and they don't require any Japanese mostly. That's really like easy in the beginning, as because you would work in English, and if your programming is like decent and you have some experience, they could show like even at university I worked at this company part-time and I did this in this game, and yeah, if you can show some like work, it always helps. And then just look, Google a lot and like find some stuff, and like use some like what's the name of hello world, no, the like the
Oh, hello sensei. Wait.
no, what was it? There was like there's an app where you can find language partners.
Yeah, I
The
think
name.
it's oh yeah, Hello
Something
Talk. There's
Hello.
Hello Talk, but there's also
Hello Talk.
yeah, okay, yeah. I actually do use Hello
That
Talk. It's
one.
fun.
So find Japanese friends, especially if you move to Tokyo, and if you have someone, that's already what the best you can have. Like because you're coming here, even you live in a share house in the beginning or somewhere like, or even like a hostel or whatever, you know someone, you could meet that person, and that person even like most, no, I would say all Japanese you meet through like language exchange, they would go to you with you to the bank or to the office or like even the I don't know city hall whatever, and do the application process and stuff. So that's like even they met you like a few times only, and you ask them, sorry, I don't know anyone here, can you go with me to the bank and open an account? They would say, yeah, sure, let's do that. So this is the other thing, like and you have already someone who could help you in case you're like, I don't know what to do or something.
Yeah.
I got this letter from the bank, I can't read anything because all in kanji.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's like three, like learn Japanese, then just have some skill set, I would say, like some experience, and then like before coming here, try to make some friends, even through online or something. That would be already so beneficial.
Yeah. And even if you were to get here and like you didn't have a chance to make friends, there are places that will do like actually there's like meetup.com, and there's like a lot of places that will go through, and they just have like language exchange things. Like they'll be like, all right, it's at this park, or it'll be a picnic here, or like a pub here or something. Then you just go there, and it's literally just like find language partners, rotate, and then at the end of it, people are like, oh yeah, what's your contact and stuff, and then you'll probably find somebody that you can go ahead and hang out with the next day and whatnot. I'm getting a businessy bachelor and no other marketable skills. How likely is it to find anything at all in Japan? Honestly, like going through venues like Gaijin Pot, or let's see, Gaijin Pot, what was it, Jobs in Japan, like sites like that. A lot of like you can search by like your proficiency level, like how proficient you are in Japanese and whatnot. And so a lot of times, like, now granted, those sites will be like a large portion of it will be English teaching, but like every once in a while you'll get something like business marketing, recruitment. Like I have a friend that works at like he like helps sells ships between companies, like actual like cruise line ships between companies, and his Japanese is probably like in 3, so like it's not terrible, but like so yeah.
Someone asked, wait, does he know Dogen? You know Dogen, right?
Yeah, actually, so it's funny. I went Dogen and I. Okay, how to say this? The school I went to in Kyushu, he worked as a staff there at that school, and while I was a student, so I actually met him before he started YouTube, and I actually hold on. Actually, I can show you a picture that he took because this is how we met. Give me a second. So, we had to make a new brochure. I say we. He had to make a new brochure for the school. So actually, like, so he took this picture, and this is the brochure for like new students entering the school APU.
Yeah.
And so that's how we met. He like was basically like he took pictures, and afterwards like we just had some lunch and whatnot, and then we found out that both of us were martial arts trickers, which is based for those who don't know what tricking is. Like, it's basically acrobatics with martial arts with breakdancing. So like when you see people like do punches and then do a kick and do a backflip and kick and stuff like that, yeah, that's kind of the stuff we did, and we kind of bonded over that. And then when he started YouTube, he was like, yo, you should do YouTube as well. I'm like, yeah, but I'm too lazy to do editing. So I went the Twitch route.
Yeah. But like yeah,
But yeah.
I also did tricking actually, like 1 year
Oh
or
yeah.
something.
What is it about trickers coming to freaking Japan? Like,
I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's a natural order of things, but yeah, that's dope though.
Yeah, but then I broke my knee and I never did it.
Oh, yep, that will do it. Yep, that will definitely
That
end
was the
that.
moment like, oh no, I'm done.
Yeah,
So what I did mostly was like the trampoline and then like run and trampoline and then do like butterfly kick or
yeah, huh?
touchdown rise or what is it called?
Oh,
Like
okay, yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, like double leg overs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was more fun, Like on the ground it's really scary, because
yeah,
if you fall down, you land on your head
yeah,
basically.
yeah, right. I would always do it out in the backyard.
Uh,
Like I would always do all my tricking in the backyard.
oh
And
yeah.
so like I remember actually I have it on video. I'll show you later like off stream, but I have it on video my
Yeah.
very
Okay.
first butterfly twist. And it happened
Ooh.
so fast I didn't know I did it. Like I went for it and it's funny cuz I did it on a pulled hamstring. I
Yeah.
should not have been doing anything on the pulled hamstring, but like I did it, like I did the twist and landed it and I was like, "Damn." And then like my friend was like, "What? You did it. You did it." I was like, "Yep."
Yep.
What exactly was his entry into Japan? Wondering because I'm also German and the easiest options for English speakers are considerably harder.
I like English teaching, but even as a German, if your English is decent, you can be a teacher. Like it's no problem. Like even if you're like an elementary school teacher, your English doesn't have to be like so good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You just
But I don't know. I would recommend if you're under 30 or at least 30 and not turned into 31 yet, just do working holiday. Because in Germany you can do that. Like get 1 year visa for Japan and do. It doesn't limit you what you want to do. You could be a waiter, you could be a teacher. You could even change in that 1 year period what you're doing and stuff.
let's see.
So working holiday, I think, is the way to go for him. If he's German, that's easy. Just save a little money and then just go.
So I would sub, but I
Oh,
need to go
thank you
now.
so much for doing this today. I think, yeah, we can do this again for sure.
Oh yeah,
Sometime like talk about other stuff because, yeah, just
definitely,
there's
definitely.
so
No,
much
this is
more
mad
playing
fun.
with you.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Like we can go ahead and do a real thing.